Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero with the Ways of Israel. We're continuing the review of To Be a Jew. We're now in chapter 7, reviewing the importance of family life as the key of happiness or to happiness in the Jewish world. The family, as we know, is the core of Jewish society. It's the center of its religious life. If the home is strong in Jewish values, stable, and healthy, then all Jewish life and all of its institutions, religious, educational, and social, etc., will be alive and vibrant. All else will soon mirror that weakness. The religious laws pertaining to family life, therefore, occupies a major part to the Jewish religious codes. These cover every aspect of family life, from its outward appearance to its most intimate relationship. An analysis of the laws relating to the areas that indicates a rest upon the following foundation. Number 1, respect and integrity, individuality, and feeling of each member of the family as a human being. Number 2, the development of a peaceful and harmonious relationship among all members of the household. This is called Shalom Bayit. The recognition and the acceptance of different roles played by each member of the family. Maintaining spiritual purity and wholesome attitude in the sexual relationship between husband and wife, between men and women in general. There are underlying principles that are the basis of Jewish law in this area, and they are both reasons for as well as results to the adherence of these codes. If there's a breakdown in Jewish family life, it's occurring in contemporary time. This may well emanate from the widespread ignorance of rules and attitude and commandments relating to the Jewish home life and sexual relationship. Jews are familiar with the ascetic ideals to the sexual relationships. Jews are also very familiar with this ideal inherent in the Christian tradition thought, and have come to know the hedonistic ideal inherent in the secularism of our day, and the mood which rejects all guilt in every discipline in matters of sex. They have been influenced by both of these different cultures. Unfortunately, many Jews in our days have remained sadly ignorant to the ideal of holiness inherent in the Jewish tradition. As a matter of fact, yesterday as we were watching some of the Jewish and Israeli culture, we noticed this purity even among the most secular Israelis, which, caught my wife and myself. I say, this is why the Jewish people is unique. The Jewish attitude has in fact stood in the sharp contrast to both extremes, and the Jews have maintained an age-old resistance to both views and practice that they generate. While the Jewish ideal is intended to elevate the human being and society to bring happiness and happy and meaningful life to the greatest numbers, it is by no means intended solely to make people happy. Making people happy by satisfying some immediate desire or physical urge at the expense of higher values was never the aim of Judaism. On the contrary, indiscriminate gratification was regarded as a gross and vulgar and concession to human weakness. This is nothing less than hedonism, which is the most vulgar from the reduces the human being to a mere animal possessed of no higher imperative than the satisfaction of physical drives and urges, where men and women have abandoned the commandments in Torah to find happiness and immediate joy, and pleasures derived from invariably yielded to misery and bitterness in a lot of hurt and pain. This is no doubt the observance of Jewish family laws have contributed mightily to the stability to the Jewish family and civil life. While these laws are not an automatic panacea for personal unhappiness because they are external factors and personality maladjustments, they do provide the formula for a stable, tranquil, and harmonious and satisfying family relationship between parents and children, between husband and wife, unless there's dysfunction. And believe it, because of these influences into Judaism, there is, we can't deny it, a lot of dysfunction that you'll find in many Jewish families. They do, however, provide the formula for the good, clean living and wholesome attitude that Jewish families should have and should possess in their daily life as family. They do provide the formula for elevating the sexual relationship from a form in which we do not appreciably differ from that of the animal kingdom to sacred expressions of love on a higher spiritual plane, worthy of the kingdom of priests and holy nation that we're called to be. Let us examine some of the traditional Jewish teachings about the husband-wife relationships. This is probably less understood and appreciated by contemporary persons than the laws relating to parent-child relationship. The growing of number of family breakups among Jews today testify to the unfortunate fact that these laws are less widely observed. Normally, when we have this problem, it's because of the influence of the outside or inside. In its general attitude towards marriage, the Jewish tradition recognizes the fact that procreation, the begetting of children, is one of the major purposes of marriage. To sear children is to fulfill the mitzvah, the biblical commandment that says, be fertile and increase. In other words, to multiply. So there cannot be truly a relationship of positive connection unless the goal of multiplying, having children, which, by the way, a lot of different statistics have indicated that here in the United States, it is on a downswing. We are not producing or reproducing as we ought to, and we were before. So the idea of being fertile increases becomes even more of a demanding responsibility to the new Jewish families. The biblical commandment to be fertile is obviously has a fulfillment of divine purpose, and it makes us partners with the Almighty in its ongoing process of creation. The minimum number of children one must have to fulfill the mitzvah is subject to rabbinical disputes. Some say 2 children, others say at least 1 from each sex. But to avoid having children is to negate, to deny the divine commandment. So when someone comes to me, they want to convert. They say to me, Rabbi, I want to eventually get married and be able to have a family and have in that family the Jewish value. That is a very strong positive indication that they're committed to the Jewish way of life, not the opposite. It's normal for a person who basically is coming to convert to Judaism to want to marry a Jewish man or vice versa, a Jewish woman, and live according to the Jewish law of family mishpacha. This particular purpose is not, however, what gives religious sanctions or spiritual legitimacy to the marriage relationship. I've known many Jewish relationships that are completely dysfunctional because they bring in from the outside all type of the shtus, all types of problems that they have embraced into the relationship or marriage. So marriage has its own legitimacy, significance, and meaning apart from children. It has its own sanctity. Before God commanded be fertile and increase, he said about creating a wife for Adam because it is not good that a man should be alone. So singleness or being a celibate is not within the Jewish framework of mindset. I will make him a helpmate, companionship, love, and goodwill necessary for the relationship. And that's presented as the first and primary purpose of marriage. While the importance of having children is stressed, the marriage itself, coming together as man and wife, has also a prime target of rabbinical concern. God waits impatiently for man to marry. Kiddushin 29b. One does not marry to dwell without a blessing, without goodness, and without peace. This is stated also in Yevamot 62b. One who does not marry is in constant sin, and God forsakes him. Kiddushin 29b. Pesachim 113a. He who has no wife cannot be considered whole. He's lacking something. There's something missing in his life. It is in having a wife that, in the opinion of the sages, completes a man as a man. The biblical lessons of Eve having been created as a helpmate to Adam was not lost upon them. No man without a wife, and neither a woman without a husband, nor both of them without God. In the whole relationship, God is in between and throughout the whole entire marriage and marriage relationship. Genesis Rabbah 8, verse 9 sums up the Jewish concept of marriage. And this is the Jewish ideal, which applies to all without distinction, be he a rabbi or be them a layman, a priest, a prophet, a teacher. So the focus in Judaism places great emphasis on Jewish family value. And by this I mean exactly what I just said. Values that express the Jewish concept of morality and of ethics. Not what we have in today's culture, which brings in all types of dysfunctions and disorders, both mentally, psychologically, and biologically. The biblical emphasis on companionship in marriage is in no way implied as a preference of platonic relationship between a man and a woman, nor did it call on unnatural repression of God-given physical emotional needs. It stood to reason then that the sexual relationship between a man and a wife should be treated positively and accepted in a favorable light. The Jew is indeed forbidden from denying his wife the sexual satisfaction she wants, apart from any consideration of procreating. Biblical law considers intercourse as a basic duty and one of the responsibilities of a married man, just as he must provide his wife with clothing and shelter as a basic right, so he must not deny her sexual satisfaction. Her food, her clothing, and her conjugal rights shall not be withheld or withhold. This, according to Exodus chapter 21, verse 10. These rights were recognized even when there was no possibility of conception. If the woman could no longer bear children for medical reasons, or was already pregnant, or had passed her menopause, it's quite apparent that in Jewish tradition the sexual relationship between the husband and the wife is merely condoned and given legitimacy so as to propagate the race or the humanity, but possess its own merit. Within the satisfied relationship of marriage, the marriage bond, sex is never treated as something sinful or obscene or shameful. Just the opposite. It's a beautiful expression of the love of a man towards a wife and a wife towards her man. This is the case. Sex is positive. Sex is kosher. Sex is necessary, and it is good. The Jewish tradition condemns in the strongest possible terms all forms of lewdness, harlotry, promiscuity, and adultery or sniut, and strictly prohibits these as all forms of incestuous sexual unions in homosexuality and sodomy as abominable. To'eva is the key word here, leading to the decay of the people and the contamination of the land. However, it speaks with glowing enthusiasm for the beauty of sexual relationship when expressed in the intimate love between a man and a woman. Those who don't know what a woman is, well, the Torah gives us our definition. Within the sanctified union of marriage. And thus we find there is no sanction for the opposite relationship. So in other words, in the case of homosexuality or lesbianism, it is not sanctioned by the Torah. I'll never forget when a person who I used to know came out from the closet and said, I want to marry a gay Jewish man. Would you marry me? And I said, I'm sorry, that is against our values, our Torah law, and I will not be able to do that, to perform that function. Go find yourself another clergy who is willing to do that, but don't count on me on sanctioning and marrying a gay man with another gay man, or vice versa, gay women with a gay woman. The beauty and the character of even health of offsprings were thought by sages to be the influence by the quality of sexual relationship. Whether or not the view will ever be scientifically violated, it's not important. This conviction on the part is at least a strong reflection of their healthy attitude towards sex in the marriage. Jewish law indicates the appreciation of the importance of proper attitude prior to coitus and set forth guiding rules. It warns against approaching one's wife and forcing her to submit against her will, and warns against engaging in intercourse while under the influence of alcohol or while a couple is quarreling and hatred divides them. Maimonides sums up the Jewish law in this respect so succinctly. Sexual union should be consummated only out of a desire and as a result of joy of the husband and the wife. Just like eating and drinking through the laws of kashrut were elevated within the Jewish faith to the level where they're constituted one of important way by which the Jew acknowledges his Maker and serves him, and with regards to the satisfaction of life. I'm going to pause here because I'm going to share with you all that basically these problems have infiltrated the Jewish society, in which you see many Jews embracing the decayed and the immoral LGBTQ value system, which has no place in Jewish Torah thought. Unless you wish to embrace what the ancient pagans brought into it, which was completely immorality, and Israel was punished for that. So this is a religious notion, and as a rabbi, I affirm these values to still be valid in today's society, despite all types of cultural and political, and you might even say construct of social media prohibiting the religious expression of going against such values that they're attempting to impose upon the world. This is Rabbi Moshe Otero with the Ways